How many people watched the game last night? Or yesterday, I guess it was. See, I had a really bad night because I watched the Nebraska game, and then I thought, well, after this is done, I'll turn it over and watch the Royals. And they tanked it too, so good night. I want to tell you a little story. Everybody familiar with Jonah and the whale? We hear it in our childhood and everything. Jonah, he was a prophet, and God said, I want you to do this, and he said, no, I won't. And so Jonah said, I'm going to do it my way, and God said, well, then you're going to do it from the belly of a fish for a while until you learn your lesson. And then he went off to Nineveh and preached to the Ninevites, and they learned from his mistakes of following God versus following ourselves. Jesus refers to this story. A lot of people say, well, that's so, it's just so out there. I'm not sure if that's true or not. The answer for me, whether it's true or not, is that Christ mentions it. He refers to it. And so to me, that's a God that can do anything, just so you know. He's around the next couple times that he's around. Remember last week he was talking to the Pharisees, and they were telling him that he had to have a demon inside of him in order to be doing what he was doing. And he's still addressing this. You see, Jesus wasn't one to say, well, that's wrong, but oh well. He's one to say, hey, this is wrong. This is wrong. And so he's sitting around this group here, and he actually says, this is a wicked generation. This group of people that I'm around here, you people right here, and anybody reading the Bible, this is a wicked generation. You have no idea what is going on in front of you. You have no idea. You don't get it. Sounds a little rough. But then he refers even to Jonah. He says, Jonah, the people of the Ninevites that knew that Jonah had followed his own way and had suffered from it and learned a lesson, they at judgment will actually be condemning us because we are worse off than they were. Because they had Jonah, you guys have me. And you're still not getting it. You don't just have a prophet in front of you. You have the Son of God right here, and you're just still not getting it. Do you have any idea who is in front of you? Do you have any idea who is walking among you? Do you have any idea what you are listening to? You don't. Because this is a wicked generation. He gives another example. He says, the queen of the south traveled for miles to listen to Solomon, his wisdom. Remember, Solomon was the person that built the first temple. He was the son of David, and he wrote most of the Proverbs and things like that. They were just very wisdomful guys. The queen from the south came to listen to him and learned from him. She said, even she will be at judgment at the very end and will be condemning you because that's just Solomon. But she got it. We are with God, and we're missing the point. We're missing it. We're missing what's going on in the world here. He said, don't you understand what it is I am trying to tell you? Don't you understand who I am? Don't you understand all of those prophets that were sent by God to give you messages, to fulfill things, to say what was coming, to say what you are doing that needs to be done this way? You're not getting it. You're too busy arguing among yourselves. You're too busy trying to do it your way like Jonah. You're too busy trying to mess around and just say that this is not true or this is the devil's work. I don't have to listen to this. You just don't get it. You just don't get it. Sometimes I watch things and then I think about God. I know that's odd, being a pastor. But this is me on Saturday. Okay? Imagine this is like a sofa, not just I don't get a folding chair at my home. But I sit there in front of the TV, and I grab my soda, and then I do what the rest of us do. I judge every play, every move, everything that football team has done. Granted, I'm not on the field. I'm not playing. I'm not the coach. I have no idea what's going on. If you put me down there and said, well, why don't you make the next play? I would say, I need to sit back on my sofa and just sit here. This is my comfortable spot, but I'm going to just tear these people apart. If they move left when they should have moved right, and I get to see it on the replay, I blame them for not having the foresight to do it. We do that, don't we? Every one of us. The point that I want to make here, football, or any other sport, really, football, volleyball, softball, whatever, is a lot like life. It's a lot like us in the world. That field that we are in is our world. The mileage that we go from point A to point B is our lifespan. We continue to try to get to the end in a satisfactory way. We continue to try to get to the goal to where at the end of our life we can say, I won! I did it! I'm a perfect person. But along the way, we continue to have people knock us down. And we continue to have people take our values, our things. And we continue to actually make boneheaded mistakes, don't we? You ever watch a team that, you say, well, they really just beat themselves. The other team didn't even have to show up. They just came out and beat themselves. That's us. That's us. In life, sometimes we just beat ourselves. Sometimes we're carrying a very valuable thing, we get distracted, we drop it, and we go another way, and we just wander off, and suddenly we're like that old football game in the 70s where you just put the little pegs on the vibrating thing and they just go all over the place. That's us. Sometimes we don't have a sense of direction. Sometimes we don't listen to the coach. Sometimes we hear something, but we forget what the play was, and we end up kind of doing it our own thing, which upsets other people and has a ripple effect to where the whole thing just goes bad. We've seen that in football too, where just a play has just gone nuts, and someone says, one of the commentators says, well, the quarterback thought it was this play, and he thought he was going to throw this way, but the receiver actually thought he was going to go over here. And so somewhere they got their wires crossed. We get our wires crossed a lot, don't we? This is us in life. The only thing we don't get to do is wear the nice helmet, because sometimes our hits hurt a little worse. Sometimes we get dazed. When a person gets hit on the noggin, ba-bam! They check him, they pull him over, and they check him for concussion, and they see if he's all right. Usually he sits out at least a play or so. Sometimes we get ba-bam! We get hurt so badly, but our concussion from that, well, it can stop us from moving forward for years. You see, with our ba-bam, we get guilt, we get resentment, we get pouty, we get sad, we get ashamed, we get we lack of confidence, not thinking that we can go further. Those are the hits that we have. And as you know, sometimes when you're watching a football game, sometimes it's a ba-bam that doesn't deserve to happen from a defensive player. But sometimes it's us making the wrong move, running into the wrong spot, and ba-bam, we get it. We get knocked. But our whole thing in life is trying just to make it to that goal. Achievement. Sometimes our life is filled with just moving 5 yards. If I can just make this, I'm good. And sometimes we have very good intentions. All I want to do is I'm going to do it in a day at a time. I'm going to do it in baby steps. I'm going to do it a yard at a time. I'm going to try to, instead of doing the Hail Mary, I'm going to just try to, Hail Mary, hey, Catholic, I did that for you. I'm going to try to just do 5 at a time, 10 at a time. I'm going to go first down to first down. I'm not going to make any big passes. I'm just going to hand off the ball. I'm just going to try to work it that way. And we try to do these baby steps. But as you know from watching the game last night, sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes we still do things that doesn't get us even to the line of scrimmage. Sometimes we do things where somebody else takes that ball and pushes us all the way back. And we got to start all over again. Sometimes the best we can do is punt. That's us. Agreed? Anybody relate to any of that? Anybody been one of those people that falls and carries the ball and tries to get that ball out of their hands and get it to somebody else, but falls again, gets sacked? And here we are, watching everybody else play that game with our soda, judging every move that they make. Well, that was stupid. Sorry you did that. That was dumb. It was your own fault, really. You know, if you just would have listened to me in the first place, none of this would have happened. This is what we do. This is what we do to each other. Every one of us, while we're trying to play the game, at the same time we're sitting on the sidelines, and man, we are just judging everybody's play. Everything that everybody does. What they need is a new coach. They got a new coach. What they need is another new coach. I didn't mean him. We need another one. We don't think about the struggles that people make. We don't think about how difficult it is. You know, in football, we have a new coach right now. He's learning the team. He's learning the things that are going on. I allow him some leeway there, some adjustment. But most importantly, I have to watch this game and say, I wouldn't know what to do. I would have no idea. Miami comes out and they do that thing in the first quarter. Yikes! What would I do? I'd be calling my mom. She knows more about football than I do, and it's just comforting. You guys see the quarterback in the fourth quarter? How devastated he was? How much he was kicking himself? How much he's kicking himself today? What's sad is that the press is going to help kick him. We are going to help kick him. And nobody's going to be feeling much better about themselves. Not a lot of people are going to be coming up to him and saying, hey, you know, it's all right. You did the best you could. You can do it next time. And if you don't do it next time, we're still here. You see, the word fan actually means that you support them win or lose. We've lost that. You see, we support them conditionally. I will wear my red, but if you keep losing these games and making my sit-down time uncomfortable, I'm done. We're all guilty of doing that. Many times I have sworn off the Chicago Bears. And then preseason comes and I think they're going to do it this time. And usually about the end of September, I'm done with them again. It's frustrating. But a true fan says, you know what? I'm just here to support. I'm here to be the positive. And see, that's the difference of when Christ was saying, you don't know who's in front of you. Because Christ will say on the sidelines, he'll say, well, maybe next time you might want to try this play. Or maybe next time what you might want to do is improve that little stance of yours and then just start off right. And maybe next time what you might want to do is you might want to take that ball and you might want to hold on to that a little tighter. And here are things to be watching out for. Sometimes they're going to try to push that ball away. Sometimes they're going to come over there. That guy over there, he's going to be one that you want to look out for. But maybe next time you can do this. The difference between us and God is that God is seeing our lives take place. Yeah, he's involved. But we're going to take it on, what if he was just a spectator at this time? What would God not be doing that we do? You see, I don't think that God would be saying, idiot, stupid. I tell you what, if it were me, I'd do it differently, and therefore, that guy's a moron. We don't know who is talking to us. We don't know the person that is in our lives right now. Because if we did, we would know that the things that we are being encouraged to do, even the things that we are being criticized for, are doing so in a caring, loving way. You see, God is trying to lead us there. He's trying to make us carry that ball there. One thing that God also knows, you see, it's not one person here, is it? It's a team. It's a team. And that team encourages each other. They look at what we did wrong, and they go again. And that's where God is. He's not the person that is saying, there's no hope. I'm not a fan anymore. You see, the reason that God is even here, the reason that He sent His Son to us, the reason that He sacrificed His Son for us is because God is a fan of us. He's a fan. And for us to be Christians, we're supposed to be like God, which means we are called to be fans, not just spectators, not just armchair quarterbacks, not uninvolved. We are there to be fans of one another. Fans, to the truest sense, not the fan that goes on the Facebook next day and tears them apart. Not the fan that says, well, I'm not going to this game, they've just disappointed me. We're talking about the fan that has been going to the football games since before Bob Devaney and has been with them through everything. We're talking to the one fan that did not want to fire Tom Osborne back in the, late 80s, early 90s? We're talking about the fan that stood by him. We're talking about the fans that say, win or lose, I support you and I'm with you and I love you. When Christ was talking about that, He was not talking about how much terrible things are. He's saying this is a wicked generation. You're not listening to how much I love you. Oftentimes we read that and we think, you're not listening to how much I condemn you. You are not listening to how much I condemn you. You got to remember that this guy was on his way to the cross when he was saying this. He was on his way to die. He was on his way to sacrifice to the people that were trying to persecute him. He was on his way to die for us. That's a fan. That's someone that loves us. That's somebody that, like a coach, will correct us. That's somebody that will say, if you go there, you're going to get hit. Oh, see, I told you, you got hit. But that's someone that sticks by us, win or lose. That's someone that stands by us, win or lose. So what do we do when we cross that line? When we've acted like we have not been a fan? Or, in other words, when we have not been Christ-like? Every one of us have. The reason I'm using football as an example is because every one of us has done that. I would like to think that I am a nice guy. But I have said some things yesterday that I'm not too proud of. I believe I combined the words bone and head many times yesterday. Almost spilled my soda once. So what do we do in our lives to keep us going? The Bible says in the Old Testament it was all based on behavior. If you wronged somebody, that person did not forgive you until you righted the wrong. A lot of people in the Jewish faith can still, they go by that. A lot of religions are based on that. Our religion is one of the only ones that says whether or not you forgive or whether or not you apologize or not, I still love you. I still forgive you. But why do we apologize in the first place? Why do we do that? Remember, last week we talked about being in the Pharisees and looking at our own behavior and looking at things that we have done and that we could change, but looking just at us, just at ourselves. That's the same reason why apology still matters. It's the same way why we still correct the wrongs. It's not necessarily for the other person. It is for us to actually say, I've been watching this game, and I really don't know the right thing or what's right. It's not really my way. I'm just here to support. We apologize for ourselves. Because every time that we apologize, we acknowledge that Christ is in charge of our lives. Every time that we do something wrong and we apologize, we humble ourselves to God and say, I tried to do it without you again. And I ended up in the belly of a whale again. And I'm sorry. Again. That's how we talk to God. That's how we humble ourselves before God. A lot of us, we grow up where apology is something that we just do not do because we have this thing called pride, or more specifically, false pride. We don't want to humble ourselves. We don't want to look weak. We want to be that guy that watches the play, waits till after it's over before they say that we know that they did something wrong. We want to be that guy. Same people that watch Jeopardy, and as soon as the person, says the right question, they chime in and say, I was thinking that. Because we want to be right. In our own little world, we want to be God. We want to be in control of our own little world. We want to be in power of our own little world. We want to be the king. We do not want to say, I messed up here. Some of the greatest coaches I've ever known are the ones that during the press conference after the game, they sit there and they say, the fault is mine. The fault is mine. I called the wrong plays. I didn't do what was right. I took some kids and I made some mistakes. The fault is mine. They own it. We do that on the sideline and as we're playing the game. Because what we're saying is that, God, I do know who's in front of me. I do know who is speaking to me. I do know what you are saying when you say this is a wicked generation. I do know what you are saying when you say you have no idea who is speaking to you right now. It's the guy with the ball. And he wants to hand it to you. And he wants to carry you down there. But we're in this world where bumps and bruises exist, and people try to go left when they should go right, and they make mistakes, and they get knocked in the head, and other people are coming after them and trying to knock them down and take what they have, and that we're all obsessed with this one thing, and we think that if we can just do the right thing, we can make it down there, and Christ is saying, you really don't get it, do you? Because if we get it, we stop trying to do it ourselves. We stop trying to be the know-it-all. We stop trying to be the armchair quarterback. We stop trying to be the person that kicks ourselves for the bad plays. We are people of God. And just as Christ was saying this stuff, we join him and we keep moving forward. And only with Christ do we make it to the goal. Only with Christ do we make it to the goal. And it's not a goal where we sit there and we try to do the end zone play and we spike the ball in the right way and we do all this kind of stuff. It's the goal where we say, I couldn't have done that without God. I couldn't have done that without Christ being in charge of my life. And if we look back at each play that we made and each mistake that we made, and each thing where we could have turned right and turned wrong, and each time that we got hit, we can actually see, wait a minute, I never had the ball. I never once was carrying the ball. Christ was there the entire time. And that's what Christ is saying. Do you see who's in front of you? Do you know who's there? Do you know that I'm actually the one carrying the ball? Do you understand that? And maybe if we do, we can move forward and we can win as a team together. Because we know that winning is pretty good, isn't it? And with Christ in our life every day, we win. Every day. Would you pray with me? Heavenly Father, you are everything to us. You are the Alpha, the Omega. You are the person in charge. Remind us of that the next time that we are either on the sidelines judging or we are feeling like we are in the field being judged. Remind us that just as the person judging, it's not all about us. And just as we are on the field, it's not all about us. Remind us that it is about you. It is about humbling ourselves to you. It is about listening to you. It is about honoring you. It is about you. It's all about you. In Jesus' name, Lord, we pray.